I want to address the recent exciting activity, the recent secondary offering, and where I see it going from here. Galaxy Digital, in my opinion, is at a crossroads of two of the most exciting stories going on in markets right now with the largest momentum, and that is crypto and AI. So what is Galaxy? Hey everybody, welcome to the Curzio Research YouTube channel. I'm Daniel Creech, research analyst here at Curzio Research. Today, I'm going to talk more about Galaxy Digital. GLXY is the ticker. This is my favorite way to play the crypto space and AI, and things are really taking off. Now, if you watched any of my other videos, thank you. If you haven't, go ahead and check those out, because I want to explain to you kind of the roadmap that we're on, and I want to address the recent exciting activity, the recent secondary offering, and where I see it going from here. Quick recap. Galaxy Digital, in my opinion, is at a crossroads of two of the most exciting stories going on in markets right now with the largest momentum, and that is crypto and AI. So what is Galaxy? Well, they're basically like a Goldman Sachs of the crypto space. They do trading in crypto, they do financing, they do acquisitions, mergers, consulting, all kinds of different things. And then, so to elaborate on that for just a moment, think you're staking different cryptocurrencies where you can stake or pledge your cryptos to be locked up for a while to support the network. In some cases, you can earn interest on that, think in the forms of dividends or payments. I'm painting with a broad brush here. But they have this whole ecosystem and this great exposure to the crypto ecosystem. And then they have their Bitcoin mining, which is transitioning into AI data centers. And the massive deal with that is because we've seen recently the constant news flow of deals between power companies and hyperscalers and different AI application users. And that's a very exciting space to be in. So with Galaxy, we have the crypto ecosystem, and we also have the momentum and the excitement around the AI data center and the power story. That's the business in a nutshell. Now, during my last podcast on Galaxy, they were just about to go live on the Nasdaq, and that was one of my big huge parts of my thesis. So if you just check out their news flow, and we'll go back here a little bit. So they announced their deal with CoreWeave, which I addressed in my last video, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. But they had a special meeting with their board of directors to just make sure everything was good with the SEC, vote on moving to the US, and then also listing on the Nasdaq. There's some other exciting news here. You can see that they partnered with Zodia Custody and blaming access to staking liquidity in financial institutions. Remember, as this crypto ecosystem grows and it gets absorbed or infiltrates the typical financial system, you're going to hear a little more about that staking. Again, that's just pledging your crypto. You can do it with Ethereum, a number of different coins, but you can just pledge that to hold, to lock up, again, to support the network and system, and then also opportunities to earn interest on that. That is going to continue to surge, and it's great that Galaxy has a hand in that. Now then, they went and started trading on May 16th. So May 16th was the big day. You can see CEO Mike Novogratz in his nice starry jacket there, ringing the bell at the Nasdaq. Big celebration, exciting times for all shareholders. Been a long, fun journey. Then Galaxy came out and announced this secondary offering, as you can see here on the 27th, and then you can see they announced that it was upsized, upsized just means the participants or the investors who are taking the offer from Galaxy always have an option to upsize or invest even more, buy even more shares, get allocated even more shares. That's what happens. It's very common, but it is positive in a sense to say, hey, we have a lot of demand, therefore we can upsize the offering to what we initially portrayed. Now, I understand the aggravation some of you have here, okay? Now, as you can see, I'll just brush through this, but they sold over 31 million shares. And what got some attention here is that Galaxy insiders were selling over 5 million shares. And of course, this stock was trading above 20, I believe, at the time. And you always see these new offerings come in at a lower price. This was at $19 a share. And they talk about different the warrants and dilution there. Now, I completely understand the frustrations that I've gotten emails, and keep them coming. Daniel at CurzioResearch.com. You can vent to me. It's fine. If you want to be upset about the insiders taking some money off the table, I completely understand your frustration. I just don't think it's a big deal to where my thesis has changed to where I don't want to be invested in this stock. And I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody. I'm simply saying I know how frustrating, long, and painful of an ordeal and a journey it's been in the last few years, just as a shareholder that I am. I can't imagine being on the inside and the frustrations in the dealings that they've had to offer or deal with. As far as taking some off the table, if sales pick up or if insiders continue to unload shares and we see a increase in selling going forward, then I'll have to reevaluate and I'll let you guys know my thinking on that. But right now, and what I thought was impressive was on June 6th, I'll just pull this up here for you. On June 11th, on Galaxy Digital's Twitter feed that I'm just showing here, they did a Galaxy Spaces on June 11th. And I encourage you guys to go and read that because I thought it was an excellent A, it was a great idea to communicate with your shareholders, and B, Mike Novogratz addressed the insider selling very early on in the recording, and I have to tip my imaginary hat to him. And essentially what he said was, listen, he made a joke and said, my wife wanted some liquidity. This guy's a billionaire. He's got tons of money. He said he still owns over 50% of the company. That's still having massive skin in the game. And he also said that over time, he's going to have to sell more shares, and I think that is good in general. I like insiders owning a lot of the stake, but it will provide liquidity, more on that in a moment, and it will help get the natural kind of Wall Street ranks, Wall Street banks kind of in rank, if you will. Now, so we'll watch to see if selling continues, but you know that Mike Novogratz is going to sell his stake over time, okay? He is going to get a smaller and smaller ownership as long as he does that at a good pace, and we'll see what price he does it at. Now, he's also talked about how he thinks the company is cheap. The stock price is cheap right now, so he better not be selling anytime soon. And in my opinion, he shouldn't use the stock as currency to do more deals and acquisitions. We'll see how that plays out. I want to see a nice pop in the stock, and then you can use your stock as currency. One more thing on the dilution, or two more things. The insiders selling is one thing, but I will come back in the future, and again, taking money off the table isn't bad by itself, okay? So don't read too much into it. Again, we'll look at the pace and all that. But even I, after a big surge, plan on taking some money off the table. Haven't sold a share yet. I continue to add to it for this reason, for these reasons. And so I'm not telling you I'm not telling you to ignore the insider trading. I'm just telling you to monitor it. And here's the silver lining in this secondary offering. You see, I'll just switch back over here, and I'm going to go back and forth between this May 29th news release and also the June 11th spaces that I just talked about, because you'll see they give the details and stocks and such, but here's what stood out to me. You always want to look for this when you're looking at filings. So who is running or doing any book running, or who's behind the deal? So you have Goldman Sachs, and by the way, just for fun trivia, Goldman's Novogratz, CEO of Galaxy, used to be a partner at Goldman. So that's kind of a fun little tie-in. But Goldman Sachs, Jefferies, and Morgan Stanley are active as active joint book running managers. Canaccord Genuity, Cantor, Keefe, you can see all these that I've just highlighted. The point here is, and the silver lining here is, and as Novogratz said on Spaces is, you have a quiet period, typically a month, give or take, 6 weeks-ish. But the point here is the quiet period is where the investment banks who do business with you that I just named, Goldman Sachs, Jefferies, Morgan Stanley, and all those, they have a blackout period or a waiting period until they can come out with their opinion or research reports. And from where I'm looking at it, that should be at some point next week. I'm doing this today, the 20th. If you don't get this today, that's not a big deal. My thesis is still intact. If you're watching this next week, it doesn't matter. I think by the 25th or 26th of June is when investment research from Goldman Sachs, Jefferies, Morgan Stanley will start coming out. Now, I don't know what they're going to say, but I would bet that they're going to be more positive than negative on the stock. And that's a huge deal because as that happens, you're going to get all the suit wearing, all the salesmen, all the pound the tables, pick up the phones, and get your clients to buy, damn it, are going to be telling the Galaxy story. And that is an amazing story to tell because you have crypto and you have AI at a crossroads. And that is a magnificent story. All right, let's get back to this real quick. So I expect the Morgan Stanleys and all those guys to start telling the story and getting everybody very much excited. Now, why do I think when I say the risk is to the upside here, I want to elaborate a little bit on what I mean. Because there are risks to everything. And I want to just pull up a chart here. So this is over on FinViz, and this is Galaxy's chart. And you can see here's the run up into the listing. We have some crypto volatility and stuff, and we are going, this was after the offering. Now, when I say the risk is to the upside, yes, there is risk. So what are the risks to the downside first? Well, you have execution risk. So their deal with CoreWeave, who is absolutely on fire right now. Check out this stock. Okay, CoreWeave, after popping in April when it IPO'd, it drifted lower with the overall market, and then bam, from this basically $40 level, it is up to over $170. Okay, so an easy 2 to 3 bagger right off the bat. Yes, I think that Galaxy has this type of momentum potential ahead of it. So CoreWeave is this massive build out of NVIDIA computer chips for everything AI data centers. I talked about how Galaxy has an amazing deal with CoreWeave, and not only did they announce an offering, or excuse me, a deal with CoreWeave before when they made the announcement of listing on the Nasdaq, but they also on the 23rd of April announced that CoreWeave has already exercised its first option for additional critical IT load at its Helios campus. Now, why is this a big deal? Because they're already, the risk to the downside is execution. So we're going to wait to hear more. We should be hearing fairly soon. I expect over the next 2 months, we should hear more clarity on the CoreWeave and Galaxy Digital deal. And here's what we want to hear. We want to hear timelines on when Galaxy expects to be providing power and therefore earning money from Galaxy, because this is a massive deal, $15 billion or $12 billion over several years. But this could easily be $500 million to $1 billion, give or take. Yes, I'm painting with a broad brush for a purpose. But we need to understand, hey, if it's going to be mid-2026, mid-time next year, if CoreWeave is a client receiving power from Helios and paying Galaxy, that's a big deal. Yes, there's going to be a lot of volatility in between that, but we need clarity on when that phase one or when that build out should happen. And we also need to make sure we keep their feet to the fire and they execute. Now, they're doing a good job because they've now listed, they did their secondary offering. They will need more money in the future. That's why we have to see more details on the CoreWeave deal. And then you're going to probably see another offering of some sort. Maybe it's a partnership, a joint venture. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. The point is that I will be very frustrated with Mike Novogratz and the Galaxy team if they do any more offerings or anything without a big announcement and without getting their share price significantly higher from current levels. And again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And Novogratz is even saying that. But the point is, these data centers and this stuff does not get built over time. It does not get built overnight. So you're going to continue to see volatility. And if this starts pulling back and you're panicking, I just want you to focus on owning what you own and why. Because if the stock goes down 25% and you think, well, that Daniel Creech is full of it and he's wrong and dead wrong. No, that's just noise. And you have to let that play out. If the thesis changes with CoreWeave, if they come out and there's not a definitive deal, if they don't have more clarity, if they're not going to meet this mid-2026 projections right now, if this deal falls through, then we can reevaluate and understand that I was wrong on the thesis and move on. But if the thesis stays intact, you have to keep, making sure that they're checking those boxes. And the reason I think, so CoreWeave, like I said, they've caught just an amazing string of momentum here. And then also Circle, the pure play on stablecoins. I switched over here just to help you with the charts to Seeking Alpha. This is just 5 days, people. This Circle is over 70% higher, and I believe it's scheduled to open up, another 11% higher as of right now. But Circle and CoreWeave are dead set in two of the biggest growth opportunities. CoreWeave is with the AI play because it's partnerships with NVIDIA, and Circle is a pure play on stablecoins. Now, why does Galaxy have upside risk like CoreWeave and Circle? Again, it's at the crossroads of AI and crypto, and right now you have significant momentum and tailwinds coming from the government, and I'm not a big fan of government intervention. I'm just simply saying, and look at my past videos, and this is why Galaxy is in the situation it's in. You had a massive paradigm shift from the last administration being very anti-crypto to the current administration being very pro-crypto. That is not a trend you want to fight. That is a trend. That is a wave you want to ride, okay? You have the wind at your back, the sun at your face, and life is good in that sense. Not saying there's no risk. I'm simply saying you have a paradigm shift going on, and Galaxy gives you the opportunity to be at the crossroads of two mega momentum plays right now. So Circle is also benefiting from the legislation that is being passed. Again, this stock is a 5-day chart. 5 days, it's up 70-some%. And one of the big drivers of this is the legislation around the Genius Act and stablecoin bill. The point here is you're going to see a lot more positive news coming from a legislative perspective than you are negative news to the crypto space. So it's only going to expand across stablecoins, staking, loaning, leveraging, what's called a commodity, what's called a security, and that is going, even if they're not perfect, the legislation, and it won't be, nothing's ever perfect, the more clarity and the idea, and just think of kind of a river flowing downstream. The more the crypto industry or ecosystem, gets comfortable and understands, hey, we can invest, we can take risk. And I'm not saying be fraudulent. I'm simply taking risk on trying new ideas and different things. That is contagious. And when the industry understands that it's not being attacked, it's being welcomed, and you can work with it, and there's opportunity to grow there and capital inflows, it's just one of the most exciting opportunities there is, in my opinion. So I'm going to keep buying. I will add to my position in Galaxy. It's by far my largest position. I'm not just being a cheerleader here. I'm calling it as I see it. Yes, I don't like to see insider sales in general, but I don't think that one is a big enough. We'll monitor it from here forward. And again, the silver lining is you're going to have the Wall Street banks start coming out with this coverage. They're going to start telling the story, and then you're going to start seeing institutions and ETFs like BlackRock's and all the ones that want to buy the market and buy the ecosystem of crypto are going to see this. One last thing, when we know we're making headway, I want you guys to watch for this. Whenever you see on the financial media, you see a headline around Bitcoin or whatever, then they always have a few tickers behind it. And usually they have Coin for Coinbase, Robinhood, Strategy, of course, deserves to be listed or mentioned anytime you're talking crypto, and then Mara or some whatever. But the point is, when you start seeing those headlines and those related stock tickers that could be affected, you're going to start seeing GLXY. And that's the story we want to get out there, because we want the BlackRocks, we want all the fund managers, we want everybody to buy this up, like Circle, like CoreWeave, and we want this story to be told, because this is an amazing opportunity for crypto, for AI, and for you, the individual investor. So thank you very much for tuning in. Like us, share us, check out my other videos. Email me, Daniel@CurzioResearch.com, Daniel@CurzioResearch.com. Until next time, cheers.